What up, cucks? It's your boy, the hater, up in this piece. And one of you suggested that I don't skip Smackdown and Raw reviews. And I agree with this suggestion. So here we are with this week's Smackdown review. I actually watched it today, and now I'm going to review it. Once again, I was busy yesterday, and I pretty much forgot that Smackdown is a thing. So here we are, right? The show opens up, and a bunch of nonsense happens with a video package pretty much chronicling that the Bloodline has been dominating everybody else here, right? We're told that there's going to be an interview with Cody Rhodes later on in the night, which was a bold-faced lie. More on that later. Then the first real segment starts. It's a match between Santos Escobar and LA Knight. Yeah, right? Santos Escobar, in my opinion, does not need a job here, right? As a matter of fact, if we have the LWO, we really do not need the Legado del Fantasma, right? They really serve no purpose. They're just basically heel LWO. You know, what is their raison d'etre, right? Why do they exist? They're just a group that does nothing except have boring matches. Now that we have Andrade back, we really don't need Santos Escobar, who is just another poor man's Andrade, right? Andrade is better than him in every way. Maybe Santos speaks better English. I don't know. More on that later as well. The match is a boring-ass match that you would expect from Santos Escobar, who, despite being a luchador, doesn't do very many luchador-y things, right? The match ends with LA Knight hitting the BFT after Logan Paul nearly costs him the match, but Logan Paul fails, so LA Knight wins, and this leads to, more production, I guess, and more, development of their feud, which will likely end at SummerSlam with LA Knight becoming the U.S. champion. Now, this is a completely meaningless victory for LA Knight. Like, nobody cares about the U.S. title. So, it's better than the Intercontinental title, let's say, for the last few years, but nobody cares about it anyways, right? Also, LA Knight gets his ass beat by Santos and Paul afterwards, right? But who cares, Then we have the gauntlet match, which took up the majority of this episode, right? This match, in my opinion, was atrocious, and I'll explain why. First up, we start out with Baron Corbin and Apollo Crews. A couple of things here. Number one, both of these guys deserve better. I will say this, though. Everyone that thought that, Baron Corbin did great work in NXT, let's see how this pans out. I don't know what all of you were thinking. I knew that he was going to come back to be a jobber, and a jobber he is. Despite this, they are able to beat Legado del Fantasma when Baron Corbin hits the end of days on one of them, right? They leave. Next up, the next team that comes in is going to be the Street Profits, right? And once again, this reminds the hater of the time that everybody thought that Montez Ford was going to be this main eventer. Well, here he is in a 12-man match doing basically nothing, right? Despite doing basically nothing, Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins are able to beat Baron and Apollo using the Revelation, which is like the spine buster into the neck breaker. A pretty cool finishing move, if I do say so myself, right? Nonetheless, nothing really changes because the next match, the next team, I should say, because it's still the same match, is pretty deadly. These guys, I guess they can be like a nice little, flamboyant / gay tag team, but beyond that, they don't offer much. They're not interesting. So they come out there and they get their asses beat too. Montez and Angelo hit the Doomsday Blockbuster and they pin them, right? Now, here's the criticism of the match. The next team is the OC, which are basically NXT jobbers at this point, right? Everybody already knew that obviously the winners were going to be the Bloodline, right? All of these tag teams are jobber tag teams who haven't been in the tag team title scene for years, it seems, right? Let's face it. Of all these tag teams, the only ones that were at WrestleMania were the Street Profits. And they were there, but they may as well have not been because they were part of a boring-ass 6-man match against the Final Testament, which they won, but they also had Lashley, which is the reason why they were ever going to even be on WrestleMania. The real feud there is just Lashley versus Karrion Kross. Nobody cares about the other ones. Fundamentally, nobody cares about Karrion Kross, and quite frankly, nobody cares about Lashley either. But nevertheless, the Street Profits beat the OC in one of the worst finishes of all time. Angelo Dawkins rolls up the giant Luke Gallows, right? He just rolls him up and Luke Gallows has to kick his feet up in the air pretending he can't get out of this, right? Now, in every gauntlet match, there is one individual or one team that gets the rub. For this match, that team was definitely... Oh, there's an accident right in front of me. It just happened right now. But everything's fine. It was just a fender bender. Let's get around these guys. Hit her on the road, Cuts. Hit her on the road. Thank God. It was right, the car that was right in front of me just hit the other car. But fender bender, it wasn't even their fault. It was some idiot was turning, and he didn't turn fast enough, so that happened. But whatever. Tater's almost home, so don't worry about me, cucks. Anyways, the wrestlers here are all jobbers, right? We can all accept that as a fact of life. The Bloodline is presented essentially as main eventers, right? Obviously, Jacob Fatu is being presented as such to a degree, but Solo Sikoa is actually going to be in the main event. But Jacob Fatu, even if he's not presented as a main eventer, he's obviously presented as the clear breakout star of this group once everything hits the fan. I don't know why yet, but that's the one they're picking, right? Mainly because Camacho is Camacho, and the other one is like 4'9", you know what I mean? But nevertheless, if you're going to have this team win, why not just have them show up as the first team and just run the gauntlet, right? Why not just have them beat all these jobbers one by one? I suspect the reason is because they don't have the gas tank to do so. But nevertheless, they were put fifth. At least put them as third, you know what I mean? And have them have short matches. It doesn't have to be a long match. Whatever, right? The Street Profits are now decimated because they've just beaten 3 teams in a row. So the Street Profits now have no choice but to wrestle, what's it called? The Bloodline, which I believe actually were the 6th team. Let's see here. Yeah, I think they were the 6th team because there was 5 different, falls. So there you go, right? The match is kind of boring. Nothing really happens. It's just, for some reason, it's longer than it needs to be. In my opinion, at least have them squash the Street Profits, considering that the Street Profits don't lose any face if they get squashed because they just had 3 matches, right? So it is, or 2 matches, I should say, or is it 3 matches? 2 matches, this is their 3rd. So whatever, it is what it is. Basically what happens, or did they have 3? I don't care, all right? So what happens is nothing. They trade a bunch of normal-ass, boring moves until eventually Jacob Fatu finds himself in the ring with Montez. Montez does basically he counters like a lift into a DDT. Jacob Fatu no-sells it. And then Jacob Fatu proceeds to hit him with 3 of the 5 moves from the Samoan moveset. He does the Samoan drop, he does the super kick, and then instead of doing a Samoan splash, he does the BME, basically, right? Now, the BME is like an impressive move, no doubt about it, right? But it's not like Jacob Fatu is this super impressive athlete, right? Like, it's all in the presentation. They make him seem like he's the Big Show. So when he does it, Corey Graves is like, oh my God, how could a man this size? What do you mean a man this size? He's like 6 foot at most, like 235 pounds. You know what I mean? He's not this like enormous human being. Like Christopher Daniels is not much smaller than him, and he did it way better. You know what I mean? So it's not like this super impressive move, considering that Jacob Fatu is not this super impressive physical specimen, right? It's not like when Brock Lesnar does the shooting star press, or when Big Show apparently used to do a moonsault. It's nothing like that, right? That's not what we're seeing here. We're seeing just a regular dude do a moonsault, right? Like, it's like when Kurt Angle did a moonsault, and obviously he did it way better, right? Nobody was like, how did Kurt Angle do this, right? They just accepted that Kurt Angle is an athletic specimen, that he can do these things. Now, Jacob Fatu might be a little bit taller than Kurt Angle, but obviously it goes without saying that Kurt Angle would murder him in real life. As a matter of fact, that's another thing that I wanted to talk about. For all this shit that I talk about Montez Ford, I was clearly wrong about his size, right? The reality is that Montez is a relatively tall guy. First of all, he towers over Tama Tonga. Tama Tonga might be 4'9". Who knows? The jury's out on that. But he towers over him, and he is a little bit shorter than Angelo Dawkins. Both of them are taller than Jacob Fatu. Now, again, I'm not saying that height is the most important metric, right? But Montez is built like a brick shithouse. The guy is muscular, you know what I mean? He's not the scrawny jobber that I thought he was. At least not anymore, you know what I mean? But Jacob Fatu might be a bit more muscular. He might be stronger. Like, it's like if you put him in the gym, I wouldn't be shocked if Jacob Fatu can lift more, right? Or if he's stronger, or if he's a better fighter. But it's not visibly so, right? Montez Ford does like incredible things. He does like a super high, frog splash. Not as good as some other people like Chris Bay, but what can you do, right? But when Jacob Fatu does something relatively tame, like a springboard moonsault essentially, right, which Jericho can do in his 50s, right? I know it's a little bit different, but you understand the point, right? It's presented as if it's like, no way should this man be able to do this. We've seen people do way more impressive things, so it's not really that impressive, you know what I mean? AJ Styles is like in his mid-40s, and he can do a springboard 450, So like, and honestly, AJ Styles, if you put him next to Jacob Fatu, it's not like Jacob Fatu is like this visibly bigger guy, right? He's not Umaga. They want to pretend that he's the size of Umaga. He's like 4 inches shorter and like 100 pounds less. You know what I mean? It's not the same thing at all. So this is more comparable to AJ Styles doing a springboard move than it is to Umaga doing it. But nevertheless, they're trying to present this Samoan jobber who just does the Samoan moveset as if he's something better than he is. In my last video, I explained, we got to use our eyes. We got to be able to think critically. And this does not pass muster, right? Jacob Fatu's presentation is not matched by what he's able to do, nor is it matched by his appearance. Other cringeworthy moments from this match include a moment where basically Jacob Fatu is yelling at Sol Sikoa saying, "I love you, my tribal chief. I love you." It was really weird. Like, why are you yelling this to this guy? Like, first of all, relax. You know what I'm saying? Number two, this is a weird thing to say for no reason, right? Like, Jimmy Uso didn't say this to Roman Reigns in the middle of a match. I get it. Jacob Fatu is presented as being basically half retarded, right? That's like all of Corey Graves' commentary is, at any moment, the loose cannon Jacob Fatu could turn on anybody, right? But it's like a high-risk, high-reward proposition. Whatever, right? I get what they're trying to do, but I quite frankly don't like it. You know what I mean? It's not believable, right? Now, after this or before this, I don't even know the order, right? Actually, let's get this other segment out of the way. Terence Crawford, who is an exceptionally good boxer, for those that don't know, he beat another exceptionally good boxer named Errol Spence Jr. He whooped his ass, right? Terence Crawford is the real deal. He's like 40-0, and he's going to fight some like Uzbeki or something like that. Some dude who's like the champion of like one weight class above, right? The other guy's also undefeated. So, this is supposed to be a big pay-per-view. And even though Terence Crawford is moving up in weight, he is the clear-cut favorite. Terence Crawford, since I'm a boxing guy, I know that Terence Crawford is billed at 5'8". So at most, he's 5'8". In boxing, they use real heights, but you never know. Maybe he's wearing some shoes or something, right? But let's just say he's 5'8", because that's what we know, right? I looked it up. Grayson Waller, who was part of the segment, is supposed to be 6'3". So he's supposed to be towering over Terence Crawford. But he's not. He's taller, but not by much. Austin Theory is like an inch taller. Austin Theory's built at like 6'1". He's like 5'10", right? So all of a sudden, these guys are completely exposed. As if this weren't enough, right? They have this boring-ass segment where they ask Terence to apologize. He doesn't, and he just knocks out Austin Theory. There you go. The guy that beat John Cena clean at WrestleMania just got knocked out by Terence Crawford, just so Terence Crawford could promote his boxing match, right? Once again, the wrestlers take a backseat to real athletes. I don't like this, right? I can't see Stone Cold being knocked out by Mike Tyson. That's why Mike Tyson knocked out Shawn Michaels, who is smaller, right? There's no doubt in anyone's mind that Mike Tyson would eat him alive. And also, he's the heel, right? Now, I get it. Austin Theory's the heel, but he's also a guy that beat John Cena, right? Shawn Michaels was on his way out, as everyone thought. Nobody knew he was going to be back and have another Hall of Fame career, but that's what happened. Then we also have the promised Cody Rhodes interview. Lazy Rhodes, motherfuckers. Lazy Rhodes. Lazy Rhodes comes out, and basically, he doesn't come out. It's like a pre-taped segment, right? But it's not an interview. It's just a promo, right? They're calling it an interview. It's just a promo. It's like 2 minutes, and Cody Rhodes basically says, "I want to see you in the ring face to face next week." As if we're supposed to be like impressed by that, or we're supposed to look forward to it, right? You're the world champion. Why don't you wrestle on Smackdown once in a while? I know that in this day and age, you can't expect the champion to wrestle all the time like we did with people like JBL or Stone Cold or The Rock or anybody that's worth being a legend. But, at least once in a while, man. Also, I should note, there was a bullshit segment between Andrade and Carmelo Hayes. Carmelo Hayes is mid on the mic. He stumbles a little bit, but he looks like the fucking Rock compared to Andrade. Andrade learned his 2 lines, and he basically says to him, "You're not LeBron, right? You are Bronny Jr." That's how he says it. "You are Bronny Jr." And then Carmelo's like, "You damn right I am. It's my time," right? They're going to have another match, right? These are just 2 undercard wrestlers that are in this like meaningless feud that can only be advanced with like a 30-second segment, right? They're just there doing nothing, and now it's like, all right, here we go. This was probably pre-taped like a week ago or something, right? Because like Andrade, it looked like he had just gotten done with a wrestling match. And as far as I saw, he did skip around a little bit. I didn't think he wrestled today. So Why is he all sweaty like he wrestled, right? Clearly because he wrestled last week or something. This probably happened after the match. They're like, all right, now just tape this segment, guys. Carmelo, go take a shower so it doesn't look like too obvious, and put on some clothes and do the promo, right? It was stupid. Nobody cares. I could give a shit if Carmelo Hayes beats Andrade, but this really goes to show what I said yesterday, which is that for better or for worse, really for worse, Andrade just needs to learn English. Simple as that, motherfuckers. I don't give a flying fuck what anyone says. Now, also one other note before we get to the main event, which was horrible. Solo Sikoa is, obviously since he's become the tribal chief, he's changed his dress code, right? Now, that's whatever, right? That fits. But he dresses like a lackey, right? He doesn't dress like a leader. He still dresses like the right-hand man of Roman Reigns. Now he has black gloves, but he feels like an enforcer still, right? In other words, he doesn't feel like the head of anything. He doesn't feel like the leader of a faction. This faction just feels like a bunch of lackeys with their leader missing. Now, kind of, that's what they're going for. I get that, right? Like, they're not trying to say Solo Sikoa is on the level of Roman Reigns, right? Like, for example, no wrestling fan alive that watches wrestling is looking forward to Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa and thinking that Solo Sikoa has any chance of coming out on top. Solo Sikoa might win the first match. Maybe the bloodline screws him over, whatever. I could see that happening just fine. But at the end, when it's all said and done, obviously Roman Reigns is going to come out on top and Roman Reigns will become champion again. Believe that. You know what I'm saying? Then after this, after Lackey Fatu and Lackey Sikoa are done with the other two lackeys, we eventually get to the main event. The main event is Bayley and Michin, more like get pinned, you know what I'm saying, versus Nia and Tiffany Stratton, right? This is your throwaway tag team match. They're trying to push forward the Nia Jax Bayley match that nobody cares about. Eventually, the match ends with Tiffany Stratton smacking Bayley in the face with the Money in the Bank, and Nia Jax hits the Annihilator and sits on Bayley, crosses her arms, and gets the pin, right? Now, at this point, Bayley's pretty much dead. So why wouldn't Tiffany Stratton just get the Money in the Bank, beat the shit out of Nia Jax from behind, and pin Bayley, right? Maybe the answer is she's afraid of wrestling Nia Jax. But nevertheless, even if Nia Jax wins or loses, she's going to have to deal with that at some point, right? So, it doesn't make any sense. And plus, Tiffany Stratton is not a cowardly heel, so she shouldn't be afraid of anybody. This was an opportunity to cash in on the Money in the Bank. And quite frankly, I thought she might, just because this was the main event. It's like, why would you put this as the main event if it's just a random throwaway tag team match, right? Just end the show with the Bloodline, and that's what they did. After this, we get a little vignette, another pre-taped vignette of the Bloodline sitting at a table, and basically Solo Sikoa says, "I'll see you next week, Cody." Complete waste of time, right? So overall, I thought this episode was really dumb, and the things that they did, they could have done better, right? LA Knight wrestling Santos Escobar. It is what it is. What can you do, right? LA Knight needs to wrestle. Santos is a guy that can take a loss because he never wins, so that's perfectly fine. Likewise, the other jobbers from Legado del Fantasma also took a big L. Everyone kind of sucked. They showed DIY watching from the back as if they have any chance to hold on to their titles. It's a complete waste of time. They should just put that on SummerSlam for the hell of it. You know what I mean? Just do a 5-minute squash match. Nobody cares about DIY. They're both jobbers. So anyways, this entire match, in my opinion, was kind of shit. The whole gauntlet match, and honestly, quite honestly, everything here was shit. There was, you could say the LA Knight match was just like a regular match. It was a nice 5 out of 10, nothing crazy, nothing special, nothing exciting, nothing like that, right? But the reality is that if the champion is not wrestling, then the show just feels empty. It's as simple as that. None of the champions really wrestle anymore, so what are you going to do, right? Now, with all that being said, I will say this, just to wrap things up, right? You tell me, motherfucks. You tell me if this episode was better than the last episode of AEW. We all know it wasn't, right? For one thing, I talk a lot of shit about Swerve because, in my opinion, he is not championship material. He is B+, Daniel Bryan-esque material. But I will say this. Swerve Scott is willing to get in there and get his ass stapled, right? And get thrown around and get his ass beat. And he wrestles consistently. And as a result, he earns my respect. Of the champions that we have, the only ones worth caring about are Swerve Strickland and maybe Damian Priest, but that's about to come to an end, so nobody cares about that, right? This is just the reality that we find ourselves in, motherfucks. This episode gets a 1 out of 10 because I didn't enjoy it at all.